This time on Rad Rat Comics, we talk about a Green Lantern villain who has the power to turn things into gold, and he uses it to... Wait, have I made this video before? Welcome back to Rad Rat Comics, a channel about comic books where I share stories that I've read in comics that I find to be very entertaining. And today I've got my co-star. Jake is here in his cute new sweater, and we're going to be telling you about a character named Lamplighter. Now, if you watched my video recently about Goldface, that was a character who had the power over gold, and he used his power to rob a gold mine and a bank, instead of just selling all the gold that he made. Well, this time, we are looking at issue number 60. Well, you want to check it out? Issue number 60. This is about a character named Lamplighter, who also has the power to create gold, but his actual story is much different. So let's jump into it. The story starts at this loan company where a guy who is very ill has to work overtime so he could pay for his treatments. It's kind of a dark story for a Green Lantern issue. But suddenly this guy busts in. Unable to move, Arthur Blunt stares as that costumed character, like somebody out of colonial times. What can he want in here? The intruder lifts a cane, pointed at the massive steel door of the loan company money vault. Next moment, into the gaping hole. So Arthur is paralyzed as he empties out the vault, stealing all of the money with his powerful staff. In the night stillness, a voice rings out loudly, harsh and triumphant. When you're free to move again, tell them the Lamplighter was here. Next morning, in the offices of the Evergreen Insurance Company, where company boss Lawford is speaking with his ace claims adjuster Hal, Green Lantern Jordan. Hal, something mighty strange occurred at the Quickway Loan Company last night. It seems an accountant named Blunt was working late when I heard the details over the radio, Chief. But how does that affect us? We insured that loan company against theft. Okay, so to catch you up, over the last dozen or so issues of Green Lantern had proposed to his girlfriend slash boss Carol Ferris. She said, oh sorry, this other guy also proposed, and I said yes to him. And so Hal can't stand to be in the same city, so he decides to tour the country, and he's just kind of driving around doing all kinds of stuff. And he ends up being an insurance claims adjuster, which is just an amazing job. Like every superhero, the classic ones all work at the news somehow, you know? But no, Hal Jordan is an insurance claims adjuster, and it happens to work out where he will get sent to check out a case, kind of like what's happening here, but they'll be like, oh, this farm was ransacked by a giant, a 40-foot tall giant. Can you go check it out? And he'll go as Green Lantern, who is able to save the day and also save the insurance company from having to pay out because he's able to undo the damage. But let's see how it goes this time. Shortly at the Quickway Loan Company, Jordan, nobody could have opened this vault last night except by blasting a hole through the vault door. It was set with a time lock. Even I had to wait till 9 o'clock this morning before I could get in to see if the money was really stolen. This seems to back up Blunt's story all right, but I've got to make sure. And so Hal questions Blunt using his power ring to make sure he's not lying, and he swears he did not steal the money. Interestingly, it is a rule in the beginning of the series where he cannot use his ring for personal gain. And so he's using his ring to be really good at his job, and he does this a lot. There's a whole issue, I almost covered it, but I decided not to, where he is not just a claims adjuster, he is an insurance, like he sells the insurance too. And so someone would come to him and say, hey, I want to be protected against natural disaster or whatever. And so he would sell them the insurance, and his ring would like give them actual magic protection against it. And so like a tornado would come and just like veer around that person and go back. There's lots of really weird stuff where he just kind of, now that was on accident, that was like a subconscious thing, but he still does use his ring to cheat at work all the time. And it feels like maybe he's not supposed to be allowed to do that. But anyway, Green Lantern focuses his beam over slate rooftops and church spires, through cement walls and steel girders. The Lamplighter isn't in the city, or my power ring beam would spot him. All I can do now is give my ring the added command to keep on searching and alert me when it finds him. We cut to a jewelry store where a man is trying to buy a diamond ring. This diamond ring is not quite what I want, miss. Price is no object. We have more expensive rings in the back room safe, Mr. Talbot. I'll get them for you. It is a relief for Cindy to go down on her knees, as I wonder who the lucky girl is. When she returns to the main salon, oh, I froze everyone inside giant diamonds in the outer room. I didn't know there was anyone else here. My, such a plain sort of girl. I think I'll turn you into a radiant beauty, my dear, and give you 40 minutes of delirious delight. I can't help thinking it, I'm beautiful. Okay, so we're getting a little glimpse at what Lamplighter's powers are. He used his cane or his staff to rearrange her face to make her pretty. I'm not sure why, but he did. So he can control what things are made of, kind of. And we'll see he does have control over making gold. That will happen later. But that's what his powers are. We'll get into more specifics later. But he's stealing because he feels like he needs to be repaid for what happened to him. But before he's able to loot all of the jewelry, Green Lantern arrives. Then as he steps past the beauty-hypnotized Cindy Corbett, Green Lantern? It took me more than a day to locate you, Lamplighter. I'm making this our first and last meeting. Up sweeps the cane of the colonial criminal. From its molecular prism shoots a sparkling beam. So be it. For you, Green Lantern, your power ring is no match for my prism cane. I'm turning all the glass in this salon into laser beams to evaporate you out of existence. Even as the awesome heat beams bounce off him, the Emerald Gladiator laughingly lifts his power ring and... Surely you didn't think you'd catch me with my defenses down, Lamplighter. When I learned of your fantastic powers at the loan company, I ordered my ring to throw a protective aura about my body. Now, there's always a protective aura around Green Lantern's body. There have been lots of stories about that. But I couldn't help but laugh because Lamplighter turns glass into lasers. Like, he can change what things are made out of, but he turns it into a laser that shoots at him. Very inventive. But let's see what happens next. Green Lantern creates a lantern and tries to drop it on him, but Lamplighter is able to convert it into a buzzsaw to cut Green Lantern in half. He jumps over it, and he's looking pretty juicy in this picture here, but Lamplighter makes a wall that Green Lantern has to punch through. They fight for a bit, and we see some more glimpses at what Lamplighter's powers are. He turns himself into helium so he can float. He turns the air into an actual wall. And as the Lamplighter races down a stairway improvised out of air molecules, he always manages to keep one step ahead of me, but I'll power ring those steps into a slide. So they fight for a couple more pages, and then Lamplighter gets outside and he turns himself into a tree. Shortly, look, Ted, it's Green Lantern, isn't he wonderful? I'm the Wonder Man in your life, Gloria, so just concentrate on me and our picnic. We'll set it up under this tree. And in due time, Ted, am I dreaming, or has that tree we were under disappeared? Don't be silly, dreamy eyes, it's just the effect of my kiss. Change back to my normal self without them being any the wiser. This guy on the date seems pretty terrible. He's like gaslighting her into believing she's crazy that the tree disappeared when it clearly actually happened. But anyway, Lamplighter is actually a blind man with a cane, and so Green Lantern does not suspect when he sees him in the park. How could this be? Until our quest leads to a room in utter blackness, in which the whispery sounds of money being counted can be heard. 10, 30, 80. But who can count money in intense darkness? Adjust your eyes to ultralight, and then you will see. How fitting, my own money tree, hung with $10, $20, $50 bills I stole from the loan company. It's my own personal payment for all I have endured. Yes, this blind man is the Lamplighter, now dressed in ordinary fashion, which is why the power ring, hunting for the colonial crook, could not locate him. Let us listen as, blind, yet I've come far from that never-to-be-forgotten day when my whole world blew up in my face as my experiment in the Nuclear Research Center exploded. The man whose job it was to ensure my protection, for in my position as head scientist for a big corporation, I dealt with unknown forces while probing the secrets of the molecule, had blundered. Dr. Carver, you all right? Incompetent fool, you are responsible for this. For long days and nights I barely held on to life in the black void which was my room in the hospital. What a tragedy, Doctor. Lee Carver was a genius. I heard he was on the verge of a great discovery that would change our way of life. I would have changed the world for the better. I was so close to success. So close. For years I'd been seeking a way of altering the molecular structure of matter, for what the ancients called the Philosopher's Stone. But where the Philosopher's Stone could only change mercury into gold, my molecule would transmute any substance into any other substance. So that's what his power is. He has a staff that can convert substances into different kinds of substances, but he is blind now. So how does he work around that? Does he have an increased sense of hearing or something like that? No. I'm so clumsy, I smash everything I touch. It's impossible for me to carry on such delicate work as this. Then, through the wisps of acrid fumes formed by the spilled chemicals, Lee Carver opened wide his eyes. I'm through trying to... I can see? The combination of those chemicals, plus the high-frequency waves with which I was bombarding them, has resulted in a new kind of light. Light is the electromagnetic waves which stimulate the organs of sight. When the optic nerves are damaged, ordinary electromagnetic waves cannot stimulate them, and so a person is blind. But these chemicals somehow affect my damaged optic nerves, permitting a more intense light to reach them, enabling them to function once again. By brushing those chemicals onto this lantern, I'll be able to see by what I'll call ultralight. Yet to ordinary eyes, this ultralight will be as invisible as infrared. It will permit me, and only me, to see in sheer blackness. Okay, so his staff has two purposes. It is a lantern that emits ultralight. Is that like ultraviolet light? Where on the spectrum is ultralight? We've got microwaves, we've got gamma ray, where on the spectrum is ultralight? He has invented a new type of light that he can see even though he's blind. But normal people can't see it, so your optic nerve has to be damaged in order to see ultralight. It's amazing, is what it is. With this cane as my weapon, I shall stalk forth into the night, like the masked lamplighter in that old art masterpiece. But instead of setting a flame to help mankind, I'll ignite a criminal blaze to stun the world. And so, into the night stepped the lamplighter, cane tapping, seeking the worldly symbols of wealth, money, diamonds, gold. And thus, with catastrophic fury, the larcenous lamplighter burst upon the world. Okay. So, he can make anything turn into anything else. That includes gold. Instead of making some gold and being as rich as he wants to use his powers to steal gold. I don't understand why anyone who worked at DC who was able to see this script, the original author, the editor, the artist, I don't care who, somebody should have said, hey, shouldn't we make it so he can't just make infinite money? Because why is he robbing people? But no one thought that. Again, just like with Goldface, nobody thought, what is the motivation behind this guy? What is the purpose of him stealing gold when he can make his own gold? I don't know, but let's see what he does. So there is a treasure ship that has been found. It's going to be transported to a local museum, but Lamplighter arrives. To keep them all helpless, I'm changing them into gold statues, since they're all so fascinated by that noble metal. And at the same time, I'll transform my appearance into my costumed other self, the Lamplighter. They'll all return to normal in 40 minutes, more than time enough for me to get away with that ship and its golden treasures. He's turned people into gold so that he can steal gold. It's baffling to me. I know I've mentioned that a bunch of times, but from panel to panel, I've made a bunch of gold. I'm going to go steal gold right now. I just can't anymore. Let's see what Green Lantern's up to. In the offices of the Evergreen Insurance Company at this moment, oh, what's that green glow? My eyes are playing tricks on me again. I better see my eye, Doctor. My power ring's been activated. It's located the Lamplighter again. Green Lantern appears and they fight for a minute. Even as he's grounded, the Lamplighter desperately activates his cane. Got to try one last trick. I figured he'd try to nullify my power ring, so I wore it invisibly on my left hand, while wearing a false ring on my right hand finger. That's one surprise he never counted on. And now it's the Emerald Gladiator, who is taken by surprise as putting a gold sheath around you as I did with the rest of the people. Great Guardians, my power ring is useless against anything yellow. I'm trapped. Yes, so Green Lantern is encased in a golden shell again. Last time, Goldface was trying to change his whole body into gold, and he made like a protective layer around himself, and he had to step into the dark so that there was no color, so that the yellow wouldn't affect it. This time, Lamplighter has, on purpose, put him in a shell. He could have turned him into solid gold and he would have been dead. He could have done that with anybody. He could turn anybody into anything and they would just die. But instead, he has put a shell around Green Lantern just so that he can break his way out in a couple of pages, which I'm sure is what's going to happen. Let's find out. Then, as a colonial criminal confidently turns to finish shrinking the treasure ship, hold it, Lamplighter. You've got something else coming to you. Huh? What? A solid 22-carat punch in the jaw. In this panel with another juicy butt shot. So, Green Lantern's punch is not 24-karat gold. It's only 22. But that's still pretty good, right? So he punches him. He explains in his own thoughts that he shrunk down so small that he was able to slip between the atoms of gold. And so that's how he was able to escape the shell, which is fine. But they keep fighting until they reach a window with an old guy counting all of his cash. He hits like a sledgehammer. Got to turn his fist into harmless feathers. Missing the Emerald Crusader, the prism beam flashes into the garret room of miser Jabez Morley. I need some cough medicine for this raw throat of mine, then back to counting my money. And when he returns to his mattress, my money! What happened to it? All that's here are these worthless feathers. In his frantic search, he flings the feathers out the window. I'll take your cane, you take my fist. My money has to be someplace around here. Next day at the Evergreen Insurance Company. Now that the Quickway Loan Company dropped its claim, Hal, I must tell you how disappointed I am in you for letting Green Lantern beat you to capturing that Lamplighter and his loot. Please, Mr. Lawford, surely you can't expect me to be as good as Green Lantern. And that's it. So Green Lantern just beats him up, I guess. There's no actual ending to it. He misses, he turns a guy's money into feathers, and then it's just over. But we do get an epilogue where we catch up with all of these characters. So we had the very sick guy in the beginning who had to work overtime to pay for his treatments. We had the jewelry store clerk who was made pretty. And then we got this old guy. Let's see what happened to them. As Arthur Blunt visits his doctor for his final checkup, Arthur, it's like a miracle. They're completely cured. I don't understand. Unless when the Lamplighter paralyzed me, he changed the diseased elements of my body into healthy ones. Why, it's Mr. Talbot, the Elite's best customer. Yes, Cindy and I have been hunting high and low for you. You see, all the while I was trapped inside that giant diamond, I kept seeing you as a strikingly beautiful woman, and I am determined to make you my wife. But I'm not beautiful now. A chorus of voices is raised in protest as, but you are beautiful, Miss Cindy. You can tell, just by hearing your voice. Your voice reveals the beauty inside you. Cinderella's Prince Charming gives her no chance to protest as he hastily slips on the diamond ring he purchased and, I'll always see you as you were, dearest, the loveliest woman on earth. Yeah, so this guy was buying at the jewelry store. A Lamplighter turned him into a diamond, and I guess it got undone or whatever. And then, so he saw her be transformed. She reads to blind people on the side. I don't think that has anything to do with the rest of the story, even though Lamplighter is also blind. It's just a coincidence. And so he finds her beautiful because of that, but also because she was beautiful for a little while. But we still got the old guy. The money's got to be here. It just couldn't have disappeared. Those voices from below. Look, these feathers are changing into money. Real money lying all over the ground, waiting for somebody to pick it up. Leave that money alone. It belongs to me. You threw it away, old man, and now it belongs to us. Jabez Morley is just one more of the ordinary folk brushed by the wings of destiny in the eternal struggle between good and evil, between crime fighter and criminal. The end. Okay, so everyone else had a nice happy ending, except for the old man who lost his life savings to people who know that it was his, would have just chosen that they're going to keep it. I don't know why it had to end that way, but it did. So I was thinking about it. In the end, everything is undone, right? So he turned the guy into a diamond, and when the time expired, he is now back to being a person, right? But he turned the guy into being a paralyzed guy, and when he turned back, he didn't have his sickness now. So like sometimes it's permanent, sometimes it's not. And I know what you're thinking. Of course he had to rob people, because if he made gold, it would only stay gold for a while. Sure, but how long does it take to sell gold? You can make a gold bar, take it in somewhere to the pawn shop, sell it, walk out with cash, it turns back into a rock, and you're good to go. So, yeah, there's one more story with a guy who doesn't understand that gold is valuable, and Green Lantern who doesn't know how many carats are in gold. And that was just a really weird one. The stories are getting more, like, less weird, but more dark. Like a guy dying of a disease, and it turns out okay, but there's more like kind of adult themes in these. Green Lantern had to leave his city because his girlfriend refused his proposal. It's not as happy-go-lucky and silly now, but at the same time, a guy invents a new form of light. What does that mean? So anyway, I read that one last night, and I felt like it was one that you should probably hear about, so I made this video. If you like videos like this, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one, and I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.